Let us move on to the master plan proper. So, step one is going to be extremely easy. You are a novice, a noob, you've never trained your back before, you want a massive back. Are you going to start by doing 50 variations for like pull downs or for rows? No, that is the worst thing possible. Your body is going to react and to respond to pretty much whatever you do. So we're going to do as little as possible to get as much back as possible. In that regard, you are going to pick one exercise from each of the following categories. The first one will be a hip hinge. If you don't know what a hip hinge is, you can Google it. It's movements, for example, like the deadlift, like the block pull, like the good morning. These are hip hinges. They are movements that train the glutes, the posterior chain, the hamstrings, and the lower back. I want to go against the dogma of forcing you guys to do a deadlift. No, there's no reason for that. You want to start with an hyperextension, that is fine by me. Then you're going to pick one vertical pull. So it's going to be a pull-up or a machine like a lat, pull down, things like this fall into the category of the vertical pull. And that is up to you, okay? I'm not forcing you to do pull-ups. I personally believe that you would better off starting with that movement because it's a great movement for hypertrophy. But if you cannot do pull-ups, you're too heavy or you're too weak, you're a girl, and it's discouraging you, it's perfectly fine to start with a machine, but know that eventually I would like you to do pull-ups because once we start talking about weighted pull-ups, which are tremendous for your upper back, if you can't do a pull-up, you're going to be in trouble. And then you're going to pick one horizontal pull, whichever you like. The only thing I want you to pay attention to is you want to do them legless, meaning not that you're going to have necessarily to just not have your feet touch the floor, the ground as you do them, but rather that I don't want you to pick like a heavy barbell row because that would interfere with the hip hinge. So in reality, something like a barbell row would fall within the category of the hip hinge and not the horizontal pull. So something like a dumbbell row or a cable row would be better indicated for that family of lifts in particular. And now that you have your three lifts and they interfere with each other as little as possible in terms of recovery, you're going to do each on a different day of the week. So that's assuming you train 3 times a week. If you train less than 3 times a week, it's okay, you'll just do 2 on the same day. But if that is the case, I ask that you please never do the vertical and horizontal pull on the same day because it will damage performance. Instead, make sure you do your hinge plus the horizontal or vertical pull. Once you become more endurant, this won't be a problem anymore. But for step 1, it is very important because our goal is to promote quality volume and to reduce fatigue as much as possible in order to get your work capacity up. Once the work capacity is up, well, fine, you can do 2 or even 3 back exercises in the same day. But so far, it would be counterproductive. So let's say you train 3 times a week. An example of a template would be on Monday, you do dumbbell rows, your horizontal pull. On Wednesday, your deadlifts, your hip hinge. And on Friday, your pull-ups, your vertical pull. That way we split the volume, you're fully performant, and you can fully recover. You can also do Tuesday dumbbell rows and then Friday deadlifts and pull-ups if you only train 2 times a week. And keep in mind that this frequency also applies if you train more than 3 times a week. Let's say you're a novice on a 4 times a week split for some reason. It does not mean you're going to add sets. It just means that you'll have a day where you don't train back. I insist on this because there is no point in doing more than just that. Now, when it comes to the rep ranges and the sets, for the hip hinge, I recommend if you do heavy pulls from the floor, so the deadlift, a 3x3 or a 3x5. That is really like the ceiling of the volume, I think, is relevant for you on the type of exercise. I also believe that something like 1 set of 3 or 1 set of 5 can be very good because the deadlift is very fatiguing. It stimulates you a shit ton. You really don't need that much volume. But if you opt instead for something like an RDL or a good morning, even hyperextensions, 6 to 10 or 8 to 12 will be your friend. And I guarantee you that when you get started, this is going to kick your ass. So you can do from 2 to 4 sets. I know that some people look at 2 sets and say, well, that's not enough. I'm seeing that changing nowadays. People start to recognize that intensity will promote growth and that volume should really be something that you use in a sense as a last resort to keep growing. But 2 sets of heavy RDLs should be enough to completely cook your posterior chain. So don't be overzealous and ease into it. For the vertical pull, if you do pull-ups, I personally recommend as many reps as possible. There is no reason to hold back or to not go to failure. Do as many as you can for 3 to 4 sets every time you do pull-ups. So 1 time a week on this particular program. I also believe that 2 times a week is possible because it's easy to recover from. But in this master plan, we're not doing that. Then, if we're talking about something like a machine, so a pull down, something like an 8 to 12 is going to be great. It's a good rep range over the board, 3 to 4 sets. And for the horizontal pulls, I have the very same recommendation, 6 to 10, 8 to 12, for something like a dumbbell row, a saw row, a cable row, all of that works really, really well. 10 to 15 is also possible. But keep in mind that this is not going to apply to the barbell row. So if you did a barbell row, I'm not saying not to do them. It's a great movement for the back, but you always want to program them as a hip hinge, meaning that they are going to open the day, and on that particular step, you would not do another back exercise on the same day. That comes later. And for barbell row, I would tell you that something like a 6 to 10 is great. You don't want to get too low because your form is going to suffer. But always remember that the exercise selection, not the movement pattern selection, is up to you. That's why I'm saying vertical pull. You pick whichever you like. If you have something that you particularly enjoy, do it because it's going to be conducive to you actually sticking to it. Now, let me repeat myself because I know that some of you are going to want to do more. There is no point in doing more than that. This is already plenty for beginners. You will get, when you become more advanced, to do more volume to a point where it's even going to become annoying the amount of volume your upper back is going to require. You are now at a stage where you can blow up with almost no work. So please enjoy it. This is your childhood. This is your adventure. You get to not have any worries in the world. So enjoy it while it lasts. This step is going to last until your work capacity grows so much that you realize that this is simply not enough. When you're done with your pull for the day, you want more. You feel like your back can take more. That is going to happen because the back is super endurant. And when that happens, we move on to step